Right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Janine Ibanez, and I'm the marketing officer at ESCO Unified Solutions. Well, ESCO is the leading provider of audiovisual solutions. Okay, so before anything else, let's start this webinar through a prayer led by Miss Rachel Caballero.
Hello, good afternoon. Let us feel the presence of our God. Father God, we thank you for this day, for a gift of life. Thank you for the safety and protection you gave us and our families at home. Most of all, we thank you for this event that you made possible by the use of new medium that we have today. We continue to pray for your guidance and protection in this difficult time that we are in. We are praying for your healing to the rest of the world. We are also praying for the safety of all people and mostly for all frontliners that leading our battle with this invisible enemy. We are hoping and praying that soon all things will be back to normal where we can freely see and hug our families and friends. This all we pray in Christ our Lord. Amen.
To formally begin this program, I would like to introduce Mr. Revixon Hoxon as Co-Unified Solutions Sales Manager for the opening remarks.
All right. Hello. My name is, you can call me Vic or Vic. And yes, I would like to welcome all of you and thank you for giving us the time by participating in this webinar. We know that most of us are working from home due to the current situation. Our movement is very limited, and yet you are here to check and see the solution that we will present in a little while. We all have one common goal, which is to find a way to battle the challenges that we are facing right now by searching for a tool that will equip us to monitor and improve the security measures or protocol within our vicinity to protect our most important assets, which is our colleagues or our employees. I think that there will be a new norm that will be part of our lives due to the lessons that we learned from this global crisis. And the solution that we offers, we think that will be part of this new norm on our daily lives. This webinar will tackle the features and benefits of the offered solution, including the technical aspect. For commercial issues and further inquiry, our team will be glad to schedule a separate meeting with you discussing all the possibilities. As of now, there is no announcement from the government whether to lift the quarantine on the 30th of April, which prevents us from visiting offices physically. However, we can always schedule a meeting using the platform that we are using now, which is Zoom application. We hope to set this meeting as early as tomorrow with you to help you plan ahead and also by looking the possibility of integrating the solution to your current security protocol. Again, thank you very much for your time. I hope each and every one of us the very best in this time of crisis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sir Revic. So today, we are presenting a solution that can help save lives, presented by Mr. Harminder from iOmniscient. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Chat box query will be answered live after the presentation. Of course, event will be recorded. And then after the event, if you want to talk further, we can open a private channel for you. Just inform us and the sales in charge. And lastly, survey link will be provided before the end of the presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. I bring them up during the presentation and we will also have time for question at the end. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our presenter, Mr. Harminder, Ham for short, a regional sales director for the ASEAN region.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harminder. I'm from IMNISIAN. I am looking after the ASEAN region. IMNISIAN has been in the video analytics and artificial intelligence space for the past 20 years. Our HQ is based out of Australia, and we have a R&D lab which is either in Hong Kong and also in the Middle East. Right. So we have been in the artificial intelligence space, mainly specifically for smart cities, right? So I want to basically share with you today an extension of what we can extend to customers, be it in all verticals, right? Be it in the public space, in the healthcare space, even in offices, factories. Our fever detection and also containment solution, which is our fever check. All right. So a recent study that was done by the World Health Organization jointly with China, the most visible or the first symptoms that are visible, okay, of a fever of a person who has a flu is the fever. All right, and fever detection. There are a lot of competitors out there in the market right now, or my competitors out there in the market right now, using thermal cameras. Right, these thermal cameras originally were used for perimeter security. Right. So what they do is they have a camera shooting at a wall where and you cannot be deploying security people at each interval. So basically, use a camera to detect body temperature, change of temperature within the view itself. Okay. The reason why I'm not putting it in presentation side is because I'm afraid that my mic might go auto mute, so I must be able to see it. So I hope this would be bearable. Just it will only be for 20 minutes. All right. So now with the movement controls that's being rolled out by governments globally, right? Eventually they will have to lift it, right? And public services, public offices, public buildings will need to be operational. All right. So places like hospitals, schools, even like places like post offices, right? So all these needs to be up and running. So how do they basically control or contain, and give an assurance to the public that that the facility that they are offering has certain countermeasures in place? All right. So and another component which most companies or most people do not even look at right now is the cost of paramedics. All right. So if you take an airport, for example, where it's a public space, it's a public domain, and people are coming in and out, right? So you definitely need to have paramedics on site, right, to attend to people who have fever-like symptoms. And what they have right now is they have manual stations with people standing by with a monitor in front, and of course they have a camera which is a thermal camera, and if in some places they have a handheld thermal gun basically. All right, so all these are hidden costs which are actually not on the surface until at the very end, and when you need to engage such services. And of course, with these people being at the front line, they are most exposed, to the elements and also to the virus. And this skill set is starting to become something of limited because of the current situation. All right, so IQ Fever Check. All right, what we do is we do fever detection in a complex scene. Let me paint it a little bit for you. We have a camera which will be able to detect multiple faces, multiple people, multiple temperatures in a group, as many as 30 to 40 within the field of view of the camera. All right, so where you have one person lining up, queuing, and walking towards the camera to do the detection, that is pointless because it's going to be stuck. You will start to draw a queue. All right, and the thing is, if it's for a public space like airports or postal services or hospitals, you must be able to be continuously monitoring. If you have someone standing at the entrance with the handgun, I mean, that person would be a security guard, for example, all right? And they don't really necessarily have the knowledge to actually do the proper screening, all right? So you need to have some level of automation. Now, to take it a step further, apart from doing the monitoring automatically, we are able to identify if the person has breached the threshold that has already been set, and we are able to notify the first responder. Now, the first responder can be a security guard, it could be the floor manager, or it could be the paramedics, depending on where the application is, all right? So if it's in a building structure, it could be the floor manager, all right? And when we detect the person that has breached the threshold, we are able to auto-enroll the person's face, even if the person is wearing a mask, all right? Now, when we auto-enroll the person's face, then we are able to track the person's movements within the facility itself using existing CCTV cameras. So IMDCN provides the brains, basically the analytics at the back. So we are not dependent on specific types of cameras as long as they meet the minimum requirements, all right? So if you look at camera manufacturers, they talk about their fever detection, and if they want to do tracking, you must use their existing brand, right? So to us, we are free and easy as long as you meet the minimum specifications, all right? Now, the third component is the automated response platform. So this allows you to see basically which cameras that you will be using to track the suspect, number one. Number two, you will also be able to see where the first responders are within the facility itself in a dashboard. All right. So just to give you an overview, basically, of our IQ Fever check, what it comprises of is basically the thermal station. It is completely unmanned. What sits at the thermal station basically is a dual lens camera. It's a thermographic camera. All right. So this camera in one housing has a lens to do temperature detection, and in the same housing, it has an optical lens to do the face enrollment. All right. So if you can see, there are two lenses on the camera itself. Now, when you go to the point, when you do the screening, your screen, you will be seeing basically two parts. The first part would be basically the fever detection, all right? And the second part would be the person's face, all right? Now, this is part of the basic system that we have, because we have two bundles. One is a basic system, one is a Genius system. So the Genius system comprises of the basic system plus the face enrollment of a feverish suspect. And then we are able to track the individual across existing CCTV cameras to identify where that person is within the facility itself. Give you a scenario: airport application. You have a thermal camera, you detect, and the person has breached the threshold, you enroll the person's face. By the time you enroll, the person has already bypassed the thermal station, all right? They're probably at baggage collection. So along the flow of footfall of the facility, we'll be able to track using our dashboard where the person is located, and we will be able to send notification to mobile phones of first responders, all right, of the date, time, location being where the camera is located. I mean, camera number, for example, camera B or camera C, they will be able to see within the dashboard itself, and they will be able to, and it will send the image of the person, all right, and also the temperature of the person for the first responder to intercept. Okay, now, of course, both bundles will be able to generate reports of people counts, and also how many people have already been screened, how many people have breached the threshold, and how many people have already been intercepted. So all this can be exported into a CSV file, and it could be fed into big data analysis or any kind of reporting dashboards that you have. All right, so this is basically in a nutshell what IQ Fever Check does. All right, so it's basically made up of a camera. All right, it is unmanned. It does detection in a complex scene where you have, let's say, a group of 30 people walking in within the field of view of the camera in multiple directions. Some people may be stationary, some people may be walking fast. So we are still able to detect. And it does not require you to have a queue, all right? Now, this queuing process, once this MCO or the quarantine has been lifted, a person may have fever-like symptoms at home and they pop a paracetamol in the morning. And when they come to work or to the facility, they don't show any signs of a temperature. Once they have breached or they have already passed the screening station and they walk into population and they develop a fever, that's where you're going to have a problem. So that's why the camera plays an important role, because it does continuous monitoring. If you take a factory floor, or if you take an office floor space, if you have a camera constantly monitoring the temperatures of people within that space itself, you give assurances or you have certain countermeasures to be able to detect if a person is already breached the temperature, maybe later in the day, and immediately intercept and quarantine, all right? So these are the various applications that we can think of, right, to see that, how effective the IQ fever check can be, all right, in these times. Okay, now, commercial advantages. It's a fully automated solution, all right? It comes with the camera, the fever detection software, and it also comes with the automated response platform, and it comes with a Super Edge device as well. Now, I want to go back a little bit about the camera. Now, we have the camera basically is able to detect temperature as far as 8 meters. All right, that's about 24 feet. And we auto-enroll the person's face at 3 meters if the person has already breached the temperature threshold that has already been set. All right, and now the camera itself comes with a calibrator, because in most instances, the implementation would be at a door or a doorway or an access way. So the ambient temperature is very key, right? So we will basically have a calibrator that is sitting outside to read the ambient temperature, sending signals to the thermographic camera, which is indoor, which can either be mounted on a tripod or it can be mounted on a structure. Tripod is more feasible because it allows mobility. Okay, so with the calibrator that's located outside, we are able to give a variance, a small variance of plus minus 0.02. Either way, plus minus 0.02. Most leading cameras, which we partner with for perimeter security, like FLIR and also Axis, these are leading thermographic camera providers. When we tested our fever detection software against these cameras, they yielded a variance of plus minus 3 and plus minus 5 degrees respectively. All right, so clearly that those cameras that were manufactured is specifically for perimeter security. So when you speak to vendors or you speak to principals, you need to be very, very precise in the type of camera. If you are going to embark on doing temperature detection using cameras, it has to be a thermographic camera. All right, it is specific to read body temperatures. All right, not use standard thermal cameras to do temperature detection, and I will explain why so in the next few slides. Okay, so I just want to go back to the slide. Sorry. So it's a fully automated system. It's reliable because, like I said, we have been in the space for almost 20 years. All our analytics and our software has been applied and also implemented globally, mostly in smart city environments, all right? And the system is completely scalable. if you take a dwelling which has multiple entrances, let me give you an example. Singapore Post is talking to us for their 90 over Singapore post offices on the island. They've got multiple entrances. So they want to be able to do a few things. Number one, they want to be able to do fever detection and containment if anyone breaches the threshold. That is one requirement. The second requirement would be to count the number of people that is entering the post office, right? So this is to support the government's mandate for social distancing, right? And the third thing is they want to do evacuation, emergency evacuation, to be able to do emergency evacuation in case someone has already been detected within the public space itself that has temperature or flu-like symptoms. The count of people within the building itself is very important, right? So we started talking to them about fever check, and it has gone threefolds because they wanted to comply with the government's mandate for public spaces to be open and operational. All right. So it's scalable in the sense that you can have multiple cameras facing multiple entrances, all connected to a single Super Edge device for one particular site. All right. So the bundle comes a camera, fever detection software, and a Super Edge device. But if you look at a consolidated architecture at the back end, depending on how many cameras you want to actually deploy within the building itself, we can actually come up with the architecture for you. All right. So it's not cast in stone, right? So it can be actually customized. Now, minimal camera infrastructure. Now, why do we say that? We say that because the detection distance is 8 meters. All right. Standard conventional thermal cameras, the detection is 3. Right. So if you have a very wide space, you would require 2 to 3 cameras to fit that space. All right. So we are able to do as far as 8 meters for fever detection, and if it's proper, and if it's in a conducive environment where there's not a lot of doors opening and there's no wind gushing in and out, we can actually detect as far as 10 meters. All right. So, and the second point I wanted to put across is minimal camera infrastructure, in the sense, once we have already enrolled the feverish person, take an airport scenario for this example. Airports already has CCTV cameras installed, just like it could be some of your buildings already have CCTV cameras installed. So if you want to do contact tracing within the facility itself, we do not require you to install new cameras to do tracking of the feverish person. What we would do is, once we have the person's face already on our database, we would take the second feed of your existing CCTV cameras, all right, and do a search and find where the person is within the building itself, and then raise the alarm. All right. Now, I'm not sure whether the fourth point is something that is relevant to the Philippines, but it's very relevant to the United States. So it's part and parcel of our Genius bundle. When I showed this slide, I wanted to show the face, but actually when we do the screening, we will get the one on the left hand side to do the thermal detection, but then on the right hand side, you would have everyone's face redacted. All right, because this is to support the privacy protection. So whoever that is monitoring the screen, right, their face, the people's face on the screen will be redacted. Only sorry, 1 minute. Sorry. Okay. Only when the person has already been identified as a feverish suspect, the person's face will be sent to the first responder, and the first responder will be able to see the person's face. All right. So this may be relevant to the Philippines or may not. So, but it's part and parcel of the solution. The solution. Now, technical advantages. Okay. The technical advantages are basically the camera, which is specifically designed to do fever detection. All right. Now, it is highly accurate because with calibration, it gives a variance of 0.02, and without calibration, it gives a variance of plus minus 0.03. All right, it is basically a dual sensor camera. It has a thermal and also a color lens on one housing. All right, and we are able to to capture the person's face even if the person is wearing a mask. Now, I want to limit the scope here, because most customers, when I talk to them, they want to talk about, yes, I get the person's face that he's wearing a mask, but I want to know who the person is, right? So that is a completely different solution itself, which calls for facial recognition. Now, facial recognition, when we do the face enrollment, we will not know if it's John or Harminder or Jerome. We wouldn't know. We would only know that the person has already breached the temperature and we have the person's face. And we will be able to detect the person's face on existing CCTV cameras because of our algorithm. Our algorithm does not require a lot of pixels. We just require 22 pixels between the eyes to be able to detect if that person is the same person that has already been registered in our database using your existing CCTV feed. Okay, so if they want to take a step further to identify, let's say, for example, in a building, you've got 20 officers, and the building manager or the building owner wants to be able to see, okay, if this person has already breached that threshold, I want to know on which floor, who's the floor manager, which company. That is a completely different requirement altogether. That would require another suite of solution, which is facial recognition and integration to their employee database and so on and so forth. Okay, so I just want to limit the fever check to basically fever detection, face enrollment, containment, notification, raising the alarm. All right. Now, we are able to detect the person's faces even they're wearing masks in a group, and we can differentiate between a person's face and a hot object. An example, you have a thermographic camera, and I walk in within the field of view of the camera, and I'm holding a cup of hot coffee. Conventional thermal cameras will pick up the hottest object within the field of view, which would be the hot cup of coffee. All right. So our algorithms are intelligent enough to detect a human face as compared to an object. All right. Now, we are able to track 100+ mask faces simultaneously across multiple cameras. This is internationally patented to IOMESEN. Okay, now let me talk about the complete package, the packages that is available. For the basic package, it comes with a DualSense camera plus the fever detection software. This would basically be your thermal station, right? And a Super H device. Now, this is basic. We came up with this bundle because customers wanted to have something immediate, and so we came up with the bundle. We preloaded everything in our lab and we shipped it out, all right, to multiple sites. So, but this Super H device and things can be actually customized depending on the configuration that we are looking at, all right. So to give you an illustration, basically these are the components that is going to be making up the basic package. Then the Genius package is the basic package plus the cross-camera tracking, the identifying where the person is within the facility, and the third thing is raising the alarm to the first responders or the floor manager. All right. Now we have we launched the IQ Fever Check about 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago. And due to high demand, we have actually come up with an option, with a second option, which is the camera. Now, this camera, remember I told basically it can detect as far as 8 meters, right? So the second lower grade camera that we have, the tracking distance is 3 to 4 meters, all right? So of course, with the lower scale camera, the price is slightly more palatable, uh, but it comes with its limitations in the sense of the range that they are able to do detection. So this camera, the higher end camera, will be more applicable for public spaces like airports, banks, post offices, hospitals, schools, right? But for like office buildings, right, the lower end camera would suffice. Now that is the only thing that is different. The rest of the components remain the same. All right. Now, system architecture wise, the three components, basically the camera, super edge device, and also the softwares for both bundles, the basic and also Genius, it will be sitting on the super edge device. It can be connected on-prem using your LAN, or it could be offered as a service, all right, as a service. But the minimum connectivity that we would require if it's as a service is 4G, all right, 4G. Now, let me talk a little bit about the camera. It's an all-in-one design. The accuracy rate is 0.3. If you put in or you install the calibrator, the accuracy rate is plus minus 0.2. All right. And the incremental threshold, the threshold can be increased by 0.01 Celsius, either way, plus minus. All right. And we take absolute temperature because the camera is specifically designed for this case, all right, and it is not affected by the temperature of the environment. And if you have the calibrator, then it's foolproof, all right. So we have actually tested this in multiple rounds before launching this, okay. And then now the brain behind the entire solution offering is basically the analytics, the FeverCheck software. So we are able to differentiate between human faces and hot objects. All right, we are able to detect fever across 30 faces simultaneously, moving in multiple directions. All right, in an uncontrollable scene. All right, that's where we work best. And all the faces are are all redacted, so privacy is protected. And with the tracking software, we are able to track 100 over faces in a single image, even if the person is wearing a mask. And how we do this is because everybody is going to be mandated to wear a mask now. So the only exposed part of your face would be your forehead and also your eyes. So basically, there will be two parameters that we will be taking when we take the picture of the suspect. It will be the distance between the eyes and also the measurement of the exposed forehead. So this will be the two parameters that we would be using to do cross-checking, with existing CCTV cameras within the facility itself. Now, the saving grace of IQ FeverCheck is there is no need to have paramedics on site, right, to do screening, right? So they in public spaces right now in Malaysia, for example, like they are going to lift the MCO hopefully on the 28th of this month, and they are going to be enforcing rotational staff to be on rotation, public services to be open. All right. Now this backs the discussion of needing to have basically paramedics in public spaces on call. Now they cannot have that many because they just don't have that many people. So we are also talking with the Ministry of Interior to see, how with Ionesian's video analytics, it renders the thermal stations unmanned. It notifies automatically, and the medic team or the first responders team can be centrally located for within certain sectors or within certain districts, right? So it could be one paramedic team or one general hospital or public hospital, per sector or per vicinity, right? So the paramedics is the hidden cost that nobody is talking about, nobody is actually paying attention to. What they are, a lot of people are actually looking at the screening and looking at having handguns and handgun temperatures to do detection for people coming into the facility. But the thing is, like I said earlier in my presentation, someone may have a fever in the morning and pop up a paracetamol, and then 4 hours later they develop the symptoms again, and they are already in the general public, right? So so that is the things that you need to start thinking about. And Ionesian's fever check is great. It automates a lot of the mundane processes, the repetitive process, but you still need to marry it with your on-ground SOPs, right? So once the person has already been detected and identified and intercepted, what next, right? So integration with the health services, how is that going to take place? Okay, all that can be actually tied back to our automated platform where, if let's say, for example, you want to notify the medical services, that we could actually send an email, for example, or send an SMS if you are integrated with a SMS gateway, or initiate a call if the facility allows it. All right. So we are able to do a more fullest spectrum, in terms of addressing the requirements with this current pandemic. Now, okay, that was a little bit about the fever check. Now, the SuperH device, it's a small box, all right, and what sits on it is the fever check software. And if you take if you get the Genius bundle, then it comes with the tracking software and also the automated response and the automated notification and sending of picture, and also the feverish-like suspects details to the first responders. All right, so it is a standard server. We do not require GPUs. We run on standard CPUs, and then of course the mobiles that we support for the first responders are basically Android phones and also iOS phones. All right. Now, because there was such a great demand, and because there were a lot of movement controls enforced in a lot of countries, we made it very easy to install. So it comes preloaded in the SuperH device together with a camera. Once you receive it, you mount the camera. All we need is basically 30-minute or 1 hour remote connectivity to set up the fever check, to do several trial runs, and it's up and running. It's up and running. So the bundle that I've shared with ESCO is basically, it comes with a 12-month worldwide warranty, because we have our offices out of Sydney, Hong Kong, and also Middle East. So we follow the sun. So if there's an issue with the software or with the hardware, basically, we will be able to respond in a timely manner. All right. So I just want to summarize again the commercial. It's an unmanned fever detection and tracking system. All right. It's highly reliable. All right. Because it does not require human intervention. It does not require a security guard holding a thermal handgun, right? That needs to be constantly calibrated. All right. It removes the risk of someone developing a fever later in the day and escaping detection. All right. Then the thing is, you do not require, and scaling this up does not require you to have many people stationed at the thermal station, because it's automated. All right. And a minimal camera infrastructure. This I want to emphasize again, because if you want to do contact tracing and you want to track the person within the facility itself, where the person is at that specific time, and you want to intercept that person, we can use existing CCTV cameras. We do not need the customer to invest in new cameras to do the tracking. All right. And the last part is basically the privacy protection, where everyone's face is redacted. All right. Now, the technical advantages are basically it's highly accurate in the sense of temperature detection, because of the variance. It goes down right up to plus minus 0.2 with calibration, plus minus 0.3 without calibration. It is a dual sensor camera where a person's fever can be detected and the face can be identified. All right, detection in large groups. So queuing, even on office floors, after the first screening, detection is possible and is automated and is anonymous. All right, and then our patented cross camera tracking is in real time. All right, and also of course our automated response platform, which comes with the Genius bundle. Just to give you an overview, basically, we have been in the space for the past 20 years. We play in the smart city space in things like facial recognition, suicide prevention for prisons, license plate recognition, and also abnormal behavior analytics. We own 60 plus patents internationally. We do multi-sensory analytics. So it's either voice, sound, video, and smell. Smell is when we do bomb detection, things like that for airports. All right, we excel in extreme crowds. So most of our applications are in prisons, in public buildings, in airports, in oil rigs. This would be our use cases. We are expert in complex scenes, and we have recently been given an award by Gartner for being the only vendor to be able to have multiple analytics running on a single camera. All right. For example, we are able to do for an airport application, we are able to do left object, or somebody left an object. We are able to do a jump to event before the object was left and identify who that person is using the same one single camera. All right. So we have deployed successfully in 60 over countries, over 45 plus use cases. Now, for the fever check itself, one of the first orders was actually the state government of Hong Kong. The state government of Hong Kong. So the state government of Hong Kong actually purchased 200 over units. But the beauty of Hong Kong is it's highly wired, right? And they have a command center at the back end. So basically, the applications for these 200 units are all public spaces. Public spaces being their train stations, bus depots, post offices, hospitals, airports. Okay, and they're growing in the numbers, but the first purchase was actually for 200 units. And the beauty about Hong Kong is it's all highly wired, and they only purchased the cameras from us and the softwares, and they did the deployment themselves because they wanted to do facial recognition, because that would require integration with the national database, and it's highly sensitive, so they took on that part internally. All right, so another use case is Singapore Post. That is looking at securing their post offices, and then the third potential would be basically in Indonesia for their police and their police stations. So I also want to talk a little bit about our suite that we are going to be launching soon. This is in direct connection with the Singapore Post, because apart from fever detection, there are mandates that are going to be rolled out by the governments, by the various governments, and it's going to be a matter of compliance. All right, so fever detection is just one component of this multifaceted offering. Social distancing is something that everybody's already practicing. All right, even when you go to the grocery stores nowadays, if they are doing social distancing, and how we do that is we do it through crowd management. All right. And now, the third component is non-contact access control. This is where facial recognition comes into play. You have a lot of implementations for access control using biometrics, fingerprints, okay, and then that is something that is going to be like replaced, by contactless. So we are also talking to banks in Singapore to do facial recognition for ATM use. All right, so we are actually at a proof of concept stage. because keypads and touch screens are now people are scared to do that, to even touch, right? So non-contact access control is another layer that we can play at, and also accurate counting for evacuations. All right, so this is basically people counting within the dwelling itself. So you would have a camera, overhead camera with depth sensing, being able to count the traffic flow in and out of the building. All right, and if you have one door that does traffic flow inwards and another door handling traffic flow outwards, we are able to actually do the mathematics at the back end to give you a total count of how many people are actually in the dwelling itself at any particular given time. All right, so that is basically what Ionesian offers in totality. I am ready to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, so with that, thank you, Sir Ham.
No problems.
We will go ahead and take some time for your question now, guys. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions in the Q&A box in your control panel. So it looks like we have a few questions from Miss Cecil. Miss Cecil Castañeda. Hi. Sir Ham, how do you connect the camera to the database?
Okay. Now, the analytics, the total bundle that we are offering comes with its own database already. All right, it will be embedded in the SuperEdge device itself. Now, if you that is to do auto enrollment of the feverish suspect. But if you're talking about the database that we want to match against a whitelist, for example, for facial recognition, now that database will need to be provided by the customer. And our technology or analytics is actually built on Microsoft platform. So we are able to build API or an SDK to integrate with that database. All right. This operating environment, can the whole system be installed outdoor? All right. What is the operating environment? Okay. Ideally, it will need to be, the thermographic camera will need to be stationed indoor. All right. The thing is, if you put it outdoor, and because of wind, and when there's wind, there's change of temperature constantly, right? So you need it to be in a enclosed environment. Let's say, for example, if it's at an entrance or within the building itself, right? The calibrator can be placed outside of the building, but the thermographic camera to do the detection has to be indoors. Okay, can this detect a person inside a vehicle? No thermographic camera can do detection over glass. If the person winds the window down, but then again, if it's a person in a car, the camera needs to be placed outside, right? So you have to take into account the temperature, not so much the temperature, more so the wind and the blowing of the wind. And that would give a lot of false alarms. But if it's in a, I don't know, if it's in an enclosed enough environment, if the person drives up and he brings the window down, we will be able to detect. Any more questions?
Yeah, any more questions, guys? Are there any questions? Okay, so
Following your answer that the camera should be inside, how about enclosed hot construction sites? Okay. We are also talking to construction sites in Malaysia. They've got 57 sites. What we do is we do fever detection at the reporting station. All right, because construction sites are open. There is no building. It will be impossible. It'll be impossible. So like what I said earlier, the fever detection cameras and the software will will do the repetitive part and also the mundane part of doing constant monitoring. But the thing is, let's say, for example, for a construction site, you need to put in SOPs in place where they need to do fever detection during lunchtime, for example, or they need to come to a certain room area to basically get their temperature checked. But it's done automatically. I mean, from a distance. It does not require someone with a hand thermal gun going and doing checking individually. All right. So that is for the construction site. At the entrance during reporting, maybe during lunch, they need to change their SOPs that they have in place. Okay, how would the paramedics receive notification? There are few, okay, if let's say, for example, a paramedic has already been assigned, or a medic team has already been assigned to your district or to your vicinity, and we would basically need to have a IQ Mobile, which is an app that needs to be downloaded onto their mobile phone, all right, and notification will be sent to their mobile phone using that app. Have you seen quarantine control where the Philippines call checkpoints? What would be the ideal setup? Okay, quarantine. These are quarantine control centers, I presume, or is it checkpoints? You're talking quarantine control here in the Philippines called checkpoints. Is it thermal stations where you have someone standing there with a handgun, with a thermal gun? Is that? Yes. Okay. Like I said. For public spaces, when that's for the government, for example. Let's put it within a context. For the government, I want to open my public spaces for the public to use. I need to give them an assurance, that the dwelling is. We have taken countermeasures in place, and when they walk into the space itself, there is constant monitoring. Number one, within the public space, within the dwelling itself. All right, and the fever checks at the gates, all right, that we can't do without. That is, there are vendors they're coming up with solutions where you have a box and you walk through it, and to me that doesn't make sense, because you are walking through a box which is a confined space, and when the person walks through the box and he's touching every single surface, right, it's right for the next person to come in, and if the person that before him had a fever and the other guy who's behind him doesn't have a fever would get a fever, right? So because this virus lives on surfaces. So the thing is, you want to be able to do detection without having without having people manning the stations. It needs to be automated to a certain level, and you are able to do notification and able to identify the person and intercepting the person, right? So that is basically our pitch. How long can the gadget stand in outdoor environment constraint? Oh, warranty. How? The warranty is for 12 months. Like I said, the solution or the camera is supposed to be for an indoor application. All right. For an outdoor application, that you need to take in a lot of other considerations, right? It needs to be tented in a sense. All right. And then even if it's outdoor, you need it to be powered. The Super H device needs to be powered. The camera needs to be powered. All right, calibration. If the calibrator is set, it does it on its own. You do not need any manual calibration. Since it does not, can the camera also be used for timekeeping system? No, it cannot. It does not do. The camera only does thermal detection and face enrollment of feverish suspects. If you want to do access control through facial recognition or by RFID card, that would be a completely different solution. Is that included in the James package? How will it be installed? Who will facilitate the installation of the app? Okay, so the app is part of the Genius bundle. All right, so like I'll give you an example. Like in Singapore and also in Malaysia, for public spaces and for offices that are going to be open, there will be task force set created for those different sectors, and paramedics would be identified. All right. Now the paramedics are government civil servants, right? And they hold a handphone, and those handphones would be basically registered, and they would definitely be notified and ask them to basically download the app, and and they will be in charge for that district itself. And that district would be basically how many buildings or how many public spaces, for example. The cost, I will let representatives from ESCO to take it up with you. Is there any other questions?
Okay, so it looks like we've covered all your questions, guys. Mr. Ham, is there any else you wanted to cover before wrap up?
No, I hope what I presented, gives an insight of how you can actually handle the lifting of the quarantine. I just want to reiterate one more time. Okay, the thing is the ability to be able to scan office floors, for example, when people are working after the initial screening at the entrance. All right, that is the key, right? Offices needs to be open, businesses need to be open, right? So constant monitoring is inevitable at the end of the day, right? So unlike places like in Malaysia right now, what they're doing is like once they lift the quarantine, they want to do a periodic fever check using a security guard, right? So that doesn't make any sense at all, right? So the application for this fever check is multifaceted. It could be in many ways, but I think it has its limitations. So for outdoor applications, please check with us. It may work, but we need to know what kind of environment that we are going to be applying. I don't want to oversell the product. I just want to basically tell you that it can be done, but it's within the indoors itself. But if the doors are indoors, but facing a door that's opening and closing with a calibrator, we do not have an issue. Customs approval. Okay, all equipments, softwares are all downloadable from the web. If you get the bundle, basically it is shipped out of Sydney at the moment. None of our equipment, none of our hardware comes from any part of China. So it comes from Sydney and also Hong Kong. But since these are the two places that it will be shipped out of. But if we are looking at multiple cameras implementation at a single site, then ESCO will be able to help you in terms of coming up with a consolidated architecture at the back end. And that consolidated architecture, be it the compute, the hardware, server storage, can be sourced locally, right? So that shouldn't be a problem. Any other questions?
Okay, so are there any questions? If none, okay, great. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.